And we're live! Oh. Welcome to the 63rd episode of the Crafty Boys.
63, no way.
We are, this is Repisode 63. Raggy? Welcome. Thank you for all of our no listeners. And I've just been handed a glass.
I've just been handed a special bulletin.
This just in. Fill these two glasses. Actually, I have my own mug. Thank you. So anyway, hi. Who's here? Everybody. Say your names.
I'm Alan.
I'm Dave.
Cool. And I'm Shane. And today we're trying out this thing, West Coast Pale Ale from Ravens Brewery Brewing Company. This is Alan's pick this week. Alan, tell me why you picked this beer. Probably because it was available.
Well, I picked it for a number of reasons. A, I've seen it on the shelf for a little while now. We actually haven't done anything from Ravens Brewing before. It's based out of Abbotsford. So I figured that it was something that we should all be able to get. And as for anybody that's been watching this podcast or listening for a while now, you'll know that we all have problems getting the product. Sometimes we, some people have one product and another person has something else. I think we've all got it today. So mission accomplished.
Wait a minute. Locke, what beer did you get?
Yeah.
There we go. Look at that.
We are the champions, my friend.
The
All right, well,
smile on TV.
Let's move on and crack this baby.
All right.
I got a hankering for a little West Coast Pale Ale. Just to let you all know out there, this is a fine craft.
According to this statement here, this is more, ladies and gentlemen, than just a standard pale ale.
That's true, and it tells me here that its international beer units are 36, and Cascadia hop, Centennial hop, a bunch of different types of malts, some crystal malt, which I like, and it has an alcohol level of 5.5% of this thing. And actually, I gotta say, I like the label. The label's very simple, but clear. It was. And I'll point out that when you get I tore mine off already because I was just excited. But each of the bottles has a paper cover over the top of the lid, which I thought was kind of a nice touch.
Look at this. Look at this.
Okay, is that just a bad pour, or what is
insane.
I think that's a bad pour.
that? All right, I'm pouring mine. Here we go. Let's see. We are gonna get ahead. Yes. Oh, yeah, look at that. Look at that. Oh, wait a minute. Let me turn that. Check that out. Check that out. Look at that. I'm gonna shine my light through it. Look at that. Can't you tell? Isn't it awesome?
Nope.
Look at that color. Sorry,
white.
I've just blinded the poor camera.
Put it in your mouth. Put it in your mouth. This is better than I was expecting.
Oh my God. What?
Right?
I'm sorry, show's over. I'm going back to Legacy. They're still open for another hour.
This is probably the best pale ale that I've had in quite a while. And I think we did a pale ale recently, didn't we? Like last week?
Yeah.
That one was okay. This one's better.
Okay, there's my second pour just for the other glass there. Check that out. That is impressive.
So on their website, on www.ravens.beer, that's interesting. Instead of .com, it's .beer. Their list of beers.
I've actually seen that happening a lot now with breweries.
The West Coast Pale Ale, with big bursting hop aroma and a rich copper color, it is immediately evident that this is more than a standard pale ale. generous additions of both Centennial and Cascade hops blended seamlessly in the strong malt backbone, which balances the bitterness with sweet toffee, caramel, and bread flavors.
I gotta say, I'm impressed.
I don't think breadiness is something that I'm getting a lot of. Thankfully.
No.
I sort of get what they're saying about the mixing bitterness and sweet toffee, you know. But this is more complex than what they just described there. I mean, that I don't know if that statement really does this beverage the justice that.
Why is this awesome? Why is this awesome? This is just awesome. This is indescribably awesome.
It is a very good beer. I'm glad I picked this. This is sort of like, you know what I've been trying and seeing a little bit is extra pale ales. They're pale ales that are kind of they're in between a pale ale and an IPA. And this is
West Pale Ale, right? So West Coast Pale Ale.
Yeah.
And Cascadians tend to hop things pretty aggressively, yeah.
Right. But I would probably, for keeping consistency with other brands, call this an extra pale ale, because I think that's what this is. This is really good.
I have to point out that it is not all that often that we pardon me, blind myself. We are not all that often raving about a beer like right out of the gate. Usually we will we are measured reviewers. We like to talk about the beer from our own personal experience like anybody else, but I don't think maybe we've done it once, maybe twice, but I think this is the first time where all four of us were like, all right, let's try the beer.
Wow.
Oh my God, I'm going to bed now. I have to take this beer upstairs.
So just a second, you said it was all four of us. I just want to check something. Dave, what do you think?
Oh yeah, sorry. Dave, I'll pay you money.
Excellent. How much? I need the money. Yes. You know what? As you guys know, I'm the one of us that's not an IPA fan.
Yes, we know this.
And I think
very
that's
well.
part of the reason you guys really like this one, because you all like your IPAs. I like this one. It's got some really cool flavors going on, and I'm not educated enough to start going off about all that stuff, but it tastes interesting is how I would put it. I'm not sure, left to my own devices, I would buy this one, but that doesn't mean it's bad and I don't like it. If that makes any sense to anybody.
Sure, no.
So
I think we're getting the gist. I mean, and you are sort of the control on because if all of us were mad about IPAs and nothing but, then there wouldn't be much of a conversation, would there? So I think it's interesting that you recognize that there's some likable things about this, but it's not your go-to.
No, and I mean, because I've been working with you guys for the last year and change, I have been exposed to more IPAs, and I guess you could say my palate is being developed, right? So that's what I have to say about that. Left to my own devices, I probably wouldn't go for this one, but I can appreciate it.
Now, let me ask you guys, out of all the beers that we've tried, what do you think is the highest IBU rating we've ever had?
This one.
Oh, hold on, Shane, you'll like this. Note on the bottle, they made a mistake. They called them international bitter units, when we all know that they're international beer units.
I know, international beer units is very important. So just pointing this out in the bottle in great detail, the international beer unit rating for this beer is called bitterness. Yeah, whatever. I don't know. I can't blame the brewery for doing that. I mean,
They
They
try.
want to be unique and they want to be different, so But I'm sorry, it's still International Beer Units, because that's just how this podcast rolls. I will point out that it also uses for the brews that I've been making at home here. And it's not in focus, but essentially right here it talks about the malts they use
Yes.
and the grains, and I use the same ones. So. Or have in the latest IPA or the latest stout that I did. So I'm kind of impressed. So hey, and I used Cascadia and I used Centennial hops as well. So
Cool.
in pellet form, of course.
But you
So-
guys didn't answer my question. Out of all the beers that we had, how many what's the most IBUs we've ever had in a beer?
I think the highest IBU rating we had was did we get a 60 or an 80 or something? I've forgotten what it
I'm
was.
thinking we got a 60 one
I
time.
can't remember what it was though.
But I don't remember what it was. And now this one here is 36, and I'm just looking at the Ravens Brewing Company website. They do have a seasonal that's out right now. It's called the Spruce Tip IRA. That's an
which I almost bought because it was right beside this bottle, and I thought, oh, the Spruce Tips one, because, and the reason I was thinking about it is that it was something that you were talking about, Locke, last week, or the week before, but I've forgotten what beer it was, but you were saying that you had an idea that maybe they were using some spruce tipping, so.
So that's an India Red Ale. And interestingly, I'm just looking at it, it has an IBU rating of 75. I'd be interested in trying that.
What beer are we doing next week, boys? We've actually never done the same brewery 2 weeks in a row, but this might be one of those times. You never know.
I gotta say, after this, I'm very inclined to find out what that IRA tastes like. Yeah.
Yeah, because it looked very good, and I was impressed. And the person that was showing me, I walked through through Legacy today in the Olympic Village, looking for this beer, and I walked by it like 4 or 5 times, because the label is so incredibly subtle. But it was the paper that eventually caught my eye when I said, I can't see Ravens Brewing. Do you see it anywhere? And they said, oh no, it's right there in front of your face, you idiot. And I was like, oh, that one there. And then that's when it popped for me. So it took me a bit of time to get there. But overall, I guess we really are enjoying this one. We are a fan right out of the gate. It's not an overpowering beer. It's actually got a nice sort of tinge to it. And not the last pale ale we did, but the more recent ones that we did, which were I think I would compare this to Piper's Pale Ale, which we all know sucked, because it was.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't say it sucked?
Oh, I would say that it sucked, but I wouldn't compare this to Piper's Pale Ale.
No, I'm saying.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the last time we had a pale ale, it was labeled as, I think was Piper's. I don't think we've done a pale for a little while. So it's day and night between these two beers. There's absolutely nothing redeeming about Piper's, even though at a time, many years ago, Piper's was kind of the thing you would kind of go for. You'd be like, that's the beer I drink. Then, of course, our palates grew and we experimented with other beers and things like that. And tasting it again, it was like, stabbing a childhood memory to death, because it was just something that you kind of was, I don't know, I don't like this beer anymore. I don't know why, and then you have to admit that it's just not very good. However, that is a segue into the first story we're going to be talking a little bit about today, which is the Vancouver Island Brewery is changing ownership. So, have you guys... Now, Alan, since you're in Victoria, what is the word on the street?
The word on the street is that Vancouver Island Brewery has been sold to a guy in Ontario who actually is part of the ownership group of Muskoka Brewery.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what the motive is behind that. They said in the deal that Vancouver Island Brewery will maintain its own, it'll stay a separate entity. The management there will make their own decisions, and they'll continue to operate as they have been. I would think that there's some sort of a strategy involved that the partial owner of Muskoka sees a way of bringing either Vancouver Island's products to Ontario or Muskoka's products to BC. I'm not sure exactly, but
could just be having a finger in a few different markets too. I mean,
could be.
I mean, if you look at the approach of Big Rock, there's something instructive about the way they're approaching. Now, they didn't purchase a brewery; they built one fresh, but they kept it a separate entity from their Alberta operation. And I don't know if that was. There may be an element where that might have been done, on account of provincial regulations or something. But I kind of doubt it. It sort of seems to me more like what was going on there was they recognized that people like stuff that's done locally. They like people who make decisions for themselves. They like fresh recipes. They like people responding to their local environment rather than taking orders from some sort of centralized board of directors or something. And so I think there's really an argument if you wanted to expand your operation into other provinces of just becoming financially involved with local operations that are already in existence. It makes sense to me anyway.
I mean, it's important to note that this isn't being sold as like a merger or anything like that. So, I mean, it's just two different companies that are owned by the same person. According to the article in the local paper here, the staff here are pretty happy with the deal, that if it has to get sold, they're glad it got sold to a guy who has an ownership stake in a similar sized brewery somewhere else and wasn't bought by like InBev or something like that where jobs could be on the line. So from that point of view, I'd say it's probably a good deal. It could have been a lot worse.
I'm glad it stayed in Canada.
Yeah, me too.
Because it seems like so often ownership transfers to some foreign entity. I'm never a big fan of that.
Now, I will say this. I think Vancouver Island Brewery they've been around. They opened in the mid-'80s, and they were sort of like, at least here in Victoria and on Vancouver Island, they were at the forefront of the craft brewing sort of revolution. They were sort of like the forefathers that allowed the Phillips and the Hoyne and all them to come onto the scene. And I think the competition has kind of passed them by. I think Vancouver Island Brewery could use with a little bit of a revamping. They don't really make anything creative much anymore. They have like their Pipers, their Hermans, and all that kind of stuff. They were
part of an earlier wave of sort of niche breweries before the whole craft beer revolution sort of thing, right?
Yeah, and I think they haven't changed with the times, and maybe it's hurt them.
Here in BC, and on the island, and But yeah, sorry, I didn't really mean to interrupt. But the Herman, you guys back in the old days. I mean, it used to be a seasonal thing every year. We'd all be excited. Who's going to get the Herminator first? It was exciting because it was different, and they were doing exciting stuff before. That was what everybody was competing over.
Yeah, but I think they need to return more to that now. I mean, yes, they still do the Herminator. It's still a seasonal, but they need to do more of that. Just my thoughts.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a little.
With the guy from Muskoka Brewing getting involved, I suspect that's probably in the cards. That's probably the kind of move they'd be making.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of happy about it because it means that either it's grown to a certain point where um, it is something that still has value. Because I was afraid for the longest time after moving to Vancouver that Vancouver Island Brewery wouldn't do very well, but mainly because I wasn't seeing their product here a lot of the time. Actually, I was really excited when I started seeing their labels over here for some reason. Uh, but I was just thinking of Pipers again. But anyway, I'm happy that it has somebody back east that has, because have we done any Muskoka beers at all?
No.
Yeah,
I don't think
when I'm out there, I think but I know I did. No, I don't think you guys could get any of it. Was sort of the issue. I think that's strange, though. I think now you actually can get Muskoka Brewery product in BC, and that's really only in the last half a year or so that's been true. I think, isn't it?
Well, that's in Vancouver. They have it at the BC liquor stores, but not here in Victoria.
Right.
I would like to try some of their stuff, to be honest. If it was here, I'd buy it.
Yeah, I think we should try it at some point, even if I have to carry some and swim over there to bring it to you, just because that's how that's how I roll. Let's move on to speaking of Vancouver Island again. The Great Canadian Beer Festival has announced the breweries that will be involved, and
Awesome.
I think we've almost done at least one beer from most of them. Not everyone, but
well, there's some that I've never heard of before.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, I've never heard of Foamer's Folly, which I think is my newest favorite name. There's also Moon Underwater, which I've never heard of.
They're here in Victoria.
Yeah.
We have not done them on this show. They've changed ownerships a couple of times. The first time that they started, I tried their beer. I actually didn't like it very much.
Their original formulation, just so you know, was that they had the idea that everybody was competing over high alcohol beers, and so they were going to do low alcohol beers.
Yes, that was.
It's an interesting, but ultimately probably not market savvy move.
No, I was gonna say our beer has no alcohol. Well, so much for that. I mean, could you imagine our beer's alcohol free? Actually, I remember years and years and years ago when I worked at a restaurant in the Oak Bay Rec Center. We had non-alcoholic beer in the fridge that was, of course, available to whoever wanted it because it, had only 0.25 or 0.5% or whatever. And two little kids came along. They were probably about 10, 11, somewhere in there, and they wanted to buy it because they were buying beer. And I said, well, I don't think so. You probably should ask your parents first. But then my boss said, no, it's non-alcoholic. You can sell it to them. Like, all right, fine. And they went off and they cracked it open, and I could see them across the restaurant, and I was sort of a little concerned about it. And then a parent walked in and saw what they were drinking and just flipped. And she came back, and I said, I didn't even ring it through the register because I didn't think any parent would actually want this, but I couldn't not sell it to them because technically it's not an alcoholic beverage. So, what can you do? There's also Wheelhouse and Wolf, which I've never heard of. There's also Townsite, which I think I've seen around somewhere.
Yeah, I've heard of them. I've seen them.
Three Ranges. Cronog is one I've never heard of. Category 12.
Victoria and Caledonia. That must be a Victoria thing because those are.
Yeah.
Victoria Caledonia Street is a street in Victoria. But I've never heard of Three Ranges.
Never heard of Three Ranges either.
Garrison?
Nope, can't say that I have. It's I don't know. It's kind of weird that there's so many that I've never heard of. Which actually, even though I've never heard of them, I'm kind of excited about it because, wow, more breweries that we can actually experiment with and check out.
BRB. Who is
I'm
BRB?
curious what Glutenberg is.
Well, Glutenberg is a company that actually makes gluten-free beers.
Really?
They've actually been at Beer Fest for the last couple of years.
Oh, really? I just never noticed. Okay.
Yeah, their lineup isn't usually typically long.
No, I would imagine.
So if you wanted to try it, you could probably try one fairly easily and then move on.
Hi, your beer sucks. See you later.
Well, no, I don't think it's the beer sucks. It's gluten. The whole point of it is that it's gluten free, not that they make beer not to make good beer, but to make it gluten free for people who need that.
And Le Trou du Diable.
Sorry about that.
They were there last year.
Were they there last year? What did they do? Did we actually know?
They did do stuff. I don't remember what, but they did do stuff. And
They did stuff that's not memorable.
Okay, so Shane and I had actually recorded some segments at this thing, but we were so drunk. They really.
You know what's really funny? I have that video stuff right on my desktop right now. But you're right. We were hammered, and yeah, the conversation seemed really intelligent when we were talking. Not so much in the replay. So I can still put it up somewhere and share it out.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think this year I think the other thing too is that we left it late and we got really hammered really fast, and it would be cooler if Locke and Dave were there at the same time. It would probably make a lot more sense. However, who knows? Hopefully that will be something we can do, because
we'll do it this year. This year it'll be fine. Yeah.
I wanted to point this article out because I saw this one just today, this afternoon. The Canadian brewery turning icebergs into beer. This is a brewery that I've heard of, mainly for only one reason: its location. It's on Random Island, and I always think that when you go to Random Island, the roads are different every single time. But what they do actually, and this is something that I apparently have done before, where they go out into the water, they find an iceberg, and they bring it back, and then they use that water to make a beer, surprisingly called Iceberg Beer. So yeah, I think it's kind of cool. The bottles are blue. I've never seen it here locally, but I would like to try it. So they call it the what is it? Somewhere on this website. They call it the 25,000-year-old iceberg water beer. What do you guys think? You guys think it would be something kind of interesting to try? Because I've always wanted to drink 25,000-year-old water.
Well, isn't all water like older than that anyway?
Technically, yes, but it's not frozen.
Well, sorry, hold on.
Depends on where you live.
What did you just say, Alan?
Well, I don't know. I mean, isn't
water, you know what water's made of, right? It's made of oxygen and hydrogen.
Yes, absolutely.
And if you're saying that the oxygen and the hydrogen is probably older, then I'm probably inclined to agree. That's probably the case. I don't know for sure, but it seems plausible to me that the atomic components of water are probably older. I would dare say than the water itself.
Yeah. So I mean, what I'm getting at is the water used in this beer is just as old as the water used to make the iceberg beer.
Yes, but the point is, in the iceberg, the water has been in stasis for 25,000 years.
Well, yeah.
Minor detail. Mainly because, I mean, the reason I thought that was kind of a cool idea is I was reading an article, and this has nothing to do with beer, but it has everything to do with water. I was just reading a little while ago that it has been discovered that there is a section of the Earth's crust that has the perfect porous rock that's deep down, like we're talking 600 kilometers down, and it's filled with fresh water. And the big thing about this is that there's so much of it, apparently you could fill the Earth's oceans twice. and it popped into my mind at the same time that if you could get a borehole down 600 kilometers and pull that water out, that would make an interesting beer, because that water is a hell of a lot older than any iceberg, at least in theory. I don't know. I just think it's kind of a neat idea. It's definitely, I mean, it's gimmicky, but I don't know. Maybe there's something about water that's been frozen for that long period of time. Because I mean, the water that I drink in BC and have drank for my entire life is from lakes, and so that water, has traveled, done its business. It's been around for billions of years, but still, it is, or potentially billions of years, but it is something that is not necessarily in this, I don't know, in the same state as you were saying, Dave, about it being in stasis, right? So I don't know. I think it's kind of a cool thing.
That's.
I think it's a
quite the
nifty.
right term, but
The what? Sorry.
I think it's a nifty gimmick.
Totally is. But what else
I'd
is a
wanna try
gimmick in our stories this year? The world's oldest beer has been brewed from a shipwreck bottle. The beer, of course, they figured out what the recipe was, but the big thing was they actually were able to use the same yeast, because apparently it was still viable. So they were able to recover live yeast from a bottle that was 220 years old, and they said it tasted light and fresh. So this is apparently the world's oldest known beer recipe, although I think that's kind of debatable, but whatever. But it's been done at the Queen Victoria Museum and Art Gallery in Australia. They have made this beer. They said it was great. And they think that the yeast is... Here's the thing that I found interesting, because I don't understand yeast 100%, but they said it's an unusual three-way hybrid, which is apparently they call it a baker brewer wine sort of combo yeast, which I think is kind of cool as well. Have you had a chance? Have you seen this anywhere yet, guys?
No.
News to me.
Yeah, well, this is the latest story that just came out today about it. It came out this morning. But the bottle that they discovered was discovered in Sydney Cove, which is apparently south of Sydney, and they think it was a small trading ship that sank off the coast in 1797. It had a cargo full of goods from Calcutta, and when they excavated the shipwreck in 1991, they discovered a bottle of beer along with many other trade goods that were still relatively well preserved. But this is really the first time they've actually done this, because they also discovered that the red wine on the ship was also viable. They could actually do that as well. And the other thing too is that the big discovery here is that they really think, aside from beer being awesome and wine being cool, which by the way I'm going to point out, speaking of wine, finally cracked open a bottle of the red wine that Shane made. I forgot to put in the extra water, so it's incredibly tart, very powerful. So I'm gonna have to decant it again a bit to water it up, because it's really it tastes like wine should taste if you really like raspberry jam, or grape jam. But anyway, the big thing here is that they thought that they can actually, because of the types of goods that they found, that they were able to kind of figure out, or it gives us some insight into what kind of microorganisms were in the diet of people 250 years ago. So, which I thought was kind of weird. I'm like, don't we know? And they're like, well, kinda, not really, because they're all dead. So there you go. Just kind of a cute little story, similar to the beer that was found off Halifax, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that we're actually seeing more and more of this. I mean, we had the beer recipe from back over, I guess, in Egypt. We've had the one in India a little while ago. Then we had this one here. But I don't
You
know.
had the one
It's
from Halifax, I think it was.
yeah. Exactly. So it's just kind of cool that we have these additional things that are just popping up now. It's like suddenly we found a whole bunch of shipwrecks, and everyone's like, "What? Why is that a big deal? We find shipwrecks all the time." No. There's beer in these ones, and it's like, oh well, that's far more important. I don't know. I think it's cool. So, but
So
but
okay, I have
overall,
a question.
yes.
What took so long? Because they found this wreck in, what was it, 97?
It took them 3 years to excavate the ship,
So
and
the wreck is where again?
in Sydney Cove. Sorry. The ship is called Sydney Cove. Sorry, but it sank off the coast of Australia. It doesn't say specifically where, but anyway. So I don't. It doesn't say why it took them so long to do this, but I have a suspicion. It's probably because of what's been going on lately with the other finds, maybe. I don't know. This is very recent. This is just something they've done recently. So it might have been that they actually knew they could potentially do this and sat on it, and then suddenly other people are doing it. It's like, we're a museum that can brew our own beer. Why not? I would actually kind of I want to try it. I want to go down there and try this. That would be kind of neat. Because they call it...
All right. Oh, go on. You're going to finish it?
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Yeah, right. Speaking of going places and trying beer, I have a field report. I just got back from Florida.
Awesome.
Tampa has a surprisingly good beer scene. First of all, straight out of the gate, the food was much better than I was expecting. The food in the area is absolutely fantastic. And what is that? That's seafood. That's the Gulf of Mexico right there. That's excellent growing conditions because it's Florida and plants love that. So the food there is really good. But the beer is exciting. Now the heavy hitters in the area, it would seem, are a group called Cigar City. Now, when I first heard the name Cigar City, I had no idea what to make of this. Tampa has a odd cylindrical shaped building, and I thought maybe they call that the cigar, kind of the way in London they have the gherkin. Is that how it works? I don't know. But apparently there actually is in Tampa a history of tobacco farming, and so it was the founding of this brewery actually related to unemployment from old cigar factories. They decided they would switch directions and start brewing beer. And so
I fully support their decision to do such a thing.
What they've got is a fantastic IPA. I wouldn't say it's too. It cuts the sort of the heat a little bit, if you see what I mean. It's not too heavy. They make a pretty respectable stout. Not that I would tell you that I think the climate's really one stouts personally, but so Cigar City definitely worth a mention. The other one that I tried straight out of the gate was now I don't think they're Tampa exactly, but they're Florida, and that's what they call Reef Donkey. And again, another hoppy, sort of not quite Cascadian, but hoppy IPA. One that I had draft and would have a game. And then in St. Pete's, they have a brewery called Three Sisters, and from them I had what they call their Beach Blonde Ale. Part of the reason I picked up the Beach Blonde is because there's another.
Sorry, that was kind of funny. Sorry, keep going. I picked up a Beach Blonde while I was down there.
That's how it goes. But Yeah, so one of my favorite BC products. There's I think is it Bernie? No, it might be Revelstoke Brewery has a product called Beach Blonde, which to me was the most hilarious beer in the world because it was in cans, and as soon as you crack them, for whatever reason, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but they spray everywhere. And I found myself thinking, all right, if I were Marilyn Monroe, what do I want a beer to do? Right?
Spray it all over me!
No, the move is, whoops, oh no, somebody come to my rescue, right? But anyway. Yeah, so I now, sadly, I didn't have to rescue any attractive blondes on this trip. One of the other things that I will mention about the area, wow, 2 scoops of raisins. People are old in Florida. Like, averaging
yeah, man.
70.
That's where every single Canadian goes to retire, it seems.
Yeah.
I'm actually trying to find.
There's a dearth of young people.
I would say so. Now, I don't think that's exclusively true. There, school and I'm hoping during the middle of the semester there'd be a few young people around, but you never know. Learn at any age, I guess, right? I'm going back to school. I'm like Rodney Dangerfield, dude. Rodney Dangerfield, you understand? Back to school, right?
I think actually when I was in Florida last year, I only had one beer and it was awful. But I'm trying to find the photograph of it because I'm trying to remember the name of it. And I'm just going through all my photographs here on my computer. It was like Sasquatch Skunk Ale or something, and it really, that's the name I remember because I think that's what it tasted like. And it was a local Orlando craft beer, and I was horrified. Like it was, I thought, oh hey, craft beer doing this new because at that time we'd been doing the podcast a couple of months, and I'm like, I'll totally try a craft beer. Why not? It'll be great. I think I managed maybe that much of the can. It was atrocious.
Well, that's your first clue that it came in a can.
Yeah, well, when in Florida. Sorry, my mind went really dirty there for a sec. So anyway, those are all the stories we have this week. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about? There's a bunch of stuff that might have happened. We've had some horrible things happen. We've had some awesome things happen. Anything that's jumped out at you related to beer?
Just one more note about the Ravens. What?
Silent. Else getting the silent voice? Is there a Dalek voice or something?
It's like a Dalek filter. By the way, before you go on, Alan, just hang on 1 second. I've just found it. It's called the Florida Beer Craft Company. The beer was called Swamp Ape.
Swamp.
Great label. It was an IPA, and it was like trying to suck down just somebody's sadness. So, anyway, Alan, you were gonna say something. Hopefully, your voice is cleared up.
Has it cleared up?
Nope.
No.
That's all right. Go with it.
Just a note on the West Coast Pale Ale. It's I guess it's not filtered. You do end up with a little bit of trub down at the bottom when you're done. It's your choice whether or not to drink that.
I didn't, but it's gone now. Num 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 num. So, anything else? We've avoided the trub. And I think that's about it. I think that's all I got to say this week. Anybody else want to have some final closing words?
Nope.
Nope. I've had beer now.
By your command.
Wait a minute. Alan, do that again.
By your command.
Centurion. I love that show, and the new one was okay too. But you can never top a television program that starts with the annihilation of the species, and then the next episode, we're talking episode 2 of the original Battlestar Galactica, they're at a space casino, like nothing happened. I always remember that, and I don't know why it stuck into my mind, but it was like, oh my God, we're being killed off by a robotic race. Run away! Okay, we've run away. Hey guys, what? You got some qubits? I gotta play some craps now. You know, it's like what?
Let's go to the casino.
It was like it was the 70s. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Of course, you can find all of our episodes at on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/something/something else. I don't even know anymore. youtube.com/user/Crafty Boys. And, of course, our website, thecraftyboys.ca, and our Twitter account, which we love using. So let us know if you have beers that you think we should be covering. They have to be a craft beer, but make sure that they're awesome, because otherwise we might make fun of them. And that's never a good thing. But thank you again. Thank you. And we will see you all next week, where we will be covering episode 64 and the beer. You never know what it'll be, so come on by and check it out. Bye, everybody. Hey, where's my clapping? Where's the clap out?